Title your page, compare and order. Fractions, decimals, and percents. And then it is the 22nd. Okay, I have one rule when we compare and order fractions, decimals, and percents. Okay, does anyone know first how to compare and order a fraction, decimal, and percent? Like if I were to give you, let's do an example so you know what I mean. If I give you this example and I want you to order 1/4, 0.75, and 50%, okay, I have one thing that must be done in order to always be able to order them from least to greatest, greatest to least, or to be able to say one's greater than, one's less than, one's equal to. What do you think it is, Colo? Okay, turn them all into fractions, decimals, percents. Do I care which one you do? No, I don't. Sometimes fractions are easier. Sometimes decimals are easier. Sometimes percentages are easier. You do whichever is the easiest one for you in the question that it's giving you. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's my one and only rule. So, one rule. Must be in the same form. It just depends on what they give you. We're not doing this one yet. We're just writing this our one rule down. So our one rule means they must all be in the same form. They must be all percents. They must be all decimals. Or they must be all fractions. Now, fractions, in my opinion, are the hardest. Because in order to compare fractions, they all must have what? The same denominator. So all fractions with a common denominator. It doesn't mean that you can't do it. You totally can, and sometimes it's easiest. But they have to have a common denominator in order for you to easily compare them. So that's why I say decimals and percentages are the easiest form to go into. So that is our one rule. And I'm sticking to it. We'll come back to this first example in a little bit, okay, guys? So we're going to first talk about comparing. When I say the word comparing in math, we are comparing. We kind of already talked about this once this year, right? What did we do with comparing? We had to tell me if it was what, or what. Equal to? Okay. Perfect. So when we compare, you're going to tell me, is it greater than, is it less than, or is it equal to? Those are your three signs that you will tell me. Is it greater than, less than, or equal to? Okay, so if I gave you this example right here, I have 3/9 and 12/13. And I want to know if it's greater than, less than, or equal to. Okay, hold on, guys. Okay, we already talked about they need to all be percents. be decimals or they need to all be fractions with a common denominator. Okay? There is a trick with fractions that you can do that makes it easy to tell. It's called cross multiply. Okay? So what I mean by that is you are going to take your two numbers that are across from each other. So the 9 and the 12, do you guys see how they are across from one another? And you are going to multiply them together. So I'm going to do 9 times 12. So everyone do 9 times 12 for me, and I want you to write it down right here. What's 9 times 12, everyone? What is it? 108. Good. Then I'm going to do the same thing with the other one. So I have 3 and 13, and I am going to once again multiply 3 times 13, and I'm going to write it right above on top. What's 3 times 13, everyone? 39. Now, you guys can compare the numbers. So, is 39 greater than, less than, or equal to 108? Which means that if this is less than, right here, that means 3/9 is less than 12/13. Does that make sense, guys? Peyton? No, butterfly method is completely different. It's on the same concept, but this is not what it's for. Butterfly method goes with adding and subtracting fractions.
There's also a different way to say butterfly.
So yes, it looks like the butterfly method, but that's specifically for adding and subtracting fractions. Does that make sense, guys? Any questions on this? See, if you have two fractions, this is what I would do because I think it's the easiest way to do it. Okay, what if I gave you this one? 6/10 and 0.06. Now, once again, you can change the fraction to a decimal and you'll have two decimals to compare. Or you can change your decimal to a fraction and you can compare, but you must have the same denominators. I almost always go to a decimal. Almost always. How do we say this right here, everyone? So if we say 6/10, we write. Now, do you guys notice that I have two numbers after my decimal here and only one number here? What should I put after this 6 so I have the same number of numbers after my decimal? So I have 60 and 6. Which number is bigger, 60 or 6? So is my answer greater than, less than, or equal to? Questions? Okay, let's try this one, number 3. If I give you 0.305 and 35%. So now I have one decimal and one percentage. Would you rather go from the decimal to the percent or the percent to the decimal? What do you want to do, guys? All right, decimal to percent. How do I go from a decimal to a percent? What do I do? Connor? I'm going to move that decimal to the right 2 times, which means what's my percentage? So is 30.5% greater than, less than, or equal to 35%? questions so far? All right, last one for comparing. If I give you 3/5 and 40%. Someone tell me, what do they want to go to? Do you want both fractions, both decimals, or both percentages? What do you want, Hattie? Both decimals. So everyone figure out what the decimal of 3/5 is. Some of you might have it memorized, which is excellent. If you don't have it memorized, figure it out. Based on what we learned for the last 2 days. It's possible it's even in your notebook. There are these conversion tricks for this one that you can use. What is it, everyone? I want a decimal. What is it? 6/10. Now change 40% to a decimal. Who can tell me what 40% of a decimal is?
4.
So I have 6/10 and 4/10. Is 6/10 greater than, less than, or equal to 4/10? And once again, guys, do we all have to do the exact same thing? No, that's the beauty of it. You do what works for you. So you can do all decimals. You could have done both percentages. You could have done both fractions. It's whatever works best for you. Understood? There's no one right way. Emma, give me a pass from your pen. Okay. Any questions on comparing? All right, we're going to go to ordering. I'm going to have to go to the next page. You guys can stay on that page if you have room, but I am out of room. So I'm going to go to the next page, and I'm going to start with ordering. When I say ordering, what do I mean? I mean least to greatest or greatest to least. So least to greatest or greatest to least. Okay, let's go back to that example number 1 that we had on the first page. So what did we say our one rule is? They must all be in the, do I care what form? All right, somebody tell me, do we want all fractions, all decimals, or all percentages? Let's do percentages this time. Okay, these are ones that are the easy ones, meaning I'm hoping you have them memorized. If you don't, I encourage you to get them memorized. 1/4. If you get a 1 out of 4 on a test, what percent did you just get? So I'm going to write down below it at 25% because I want them all in that same form. If I have 0.75, what percent is that? So then I would write a 75%. And 50% already is a percentage, right? So I'm just going to rewrite it. Now I have them all percentages. Here is where students mess up because you have to write your answers in the form that they were given to you in, which means I don't write 25%, 50%, 75%. I have to write the fractions, the decimals, and the percents that I was given. Does that make sense? So the first thing I would do is I would write down numbers, like which one comes first? What percentage comes first? So I'm going to write that that's my first number. That's what comes first. Because otherwise I could potentially write it wrong. What number comes next? So that's my second number. What's my next number? So I'm going to label that that's what my numbers go in that order, so then I know that when I rewrite my answer, how should I write it? What comes after 1/4? And what comes after 50%? You must write your answers back in original form or you will get them incorrect. Is that understood? Does that make sense? All right, we're going to get a little harder of a one. So let's go to the next page. And I first want you guys to write down the one rule for ordering answers must always be in original form. Answers must always be in original form. All right, ready for an example? Okay, first example for ordering. Here are your numbers. 0.43 or 43 hundredths. I'm going to give you a little trickier of some fractions here so we can practice. 4/9. 40%. And then 3/8. Now let's all, because it's our notes, let's all do the same form. On your homework, you can do whatever. Do you guys want to do fractions, decimals, or percentages?
Decimal.
Raise your hand for decimals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I literally like that. Guys, you're not helping me out. All right, let's just do decimals. Only reason I say that is because decimals is the middle ground between fractions and percentages. The common area. Okay, so we need to change all of these to all decimals. That first one, done for you, isn't it? So I'm just going to rewrite it. It's already done. 4/9. Is that an easy fraction to change to a decimal? Is that an easy one? No, it's not. It's one of the tricky ones. So what do I have to do in order to change it to a decimal? Divide. Which number goes in the house? So let's do 4 divided by 9. Can 9 go into 4? Can 9 go into 4? So what do we put up top? A and A. What do we add after that? 4. 9 goes into 40 how many times? What's 9 times 4?
36.
And 40 minus 36 is?
4.
So what do you notice is happening? So who remembers how many decimal places did I always tell you to go to? What was it, everyone? 3. So how many 4s should I have?
2.
I want 3 4s because that's what I've always told you to go to, right, guys? Now, before we move on, when comparing, we want the same amount of numbers after our decimals, right, guys? So right here, I just have 43, correct? What should I add to the end of it? So I'm going to put a 0 to the end So now it's what? 430 and 444. They're even. You can easily compare them. All right, 40%. Everyone change that to a decimal for me. Who can tell me? Where's my decimal? Because I don't see it. It's not there. Excellent. It is behind that zero. If we don't see it, it's always, always, always at the very end. How many spaces do we move it, everyone? And in what direction? So I go 1, 2. What's my decimal then, everyone? 0.40. But that only has how many numbers? So what do I need to add? Is this starting to maybe get a little bit easier? Okay, what do I need to do with 3/8? So which number goes in the house? Good. So we're going to do 3 divided by 8. Now remember, guys, your quiz tomorrow, you won't be allowed to use your notebook. So conversions do have to be memorized. I promise they won't be like crazy ridiculous numbers though, okay? They'll be numbers like this. Got it? Okay? I'm not trying to make it difficult on you. Jake. I don't know. You'll find out tomorrow.
I think this is also one that goes on forever.
It does not go on forever. It will end at 3. All right. 8 goes into 3. How many times? What, everyone? And what do you then add after that 0? What goes after the 3? 8 goes into 30. How many times? What's 8 times 3?
24.
30 minus 24 is? What do I add? 8 goes into 60. How many times? 8 times 7 is? 60 minus 56 is? Add a? Oops. And 8 goes into 40. How many times? And 8 times 5 is? Now, if I recall, I think we've done that one already. We've done 7 8. I can't remember. Was it on a homework one? Yes. Pretty much what I'm saying is you're going to see the 8s come up a lot, okay? Is what I mean by that. Got it? 8s are a very common one. So what is the decimal? Okay, so now when ordering, remember, we put our numbers next to them for which goes first, which goes second, which goes third, which goes fourth. So pretend there's not a 0 point. Does that make sense? Pretend there's no 0 point, no 0 point, no 0 point, no 0 point. And just look at the numbers. What's the number here? 430. 444. 400. If I want to go least to greatest, because I didn't tell you which order we are going in. If I want to go least to greatest, which one is my smallest number? 375 is that smallest number. Because you're not worried about the 0, the decimal point. You're worried about just what's behind it. What's the next smallest number? 400. What comes next then? And what comes last?
It's almost time.
So now let's put them in order from least to greatest, putting them back in the original form. So if 375 came first, what should I write down? 3/8. If 400 came second, what should I write? 40%. If 430 came third, what should I write? And if 444 came last, what should I put?
49.
Questions. This is where we're going to pick up tomorrow, okay, guys? So I'm going to stop